What's going on, everybody? You're listening to the Point2Point NHL Recap Show, Season 3, Episode 19. I'm Pascal Pryor, joined by Mark Havlock. Mark, what a day of hockey, man. Absolutely insane. We had the quarterfinals today for the men's ice hockey at the Olympics, where, you know what, let's get right into that, Mark. With the quarterfinals, it featured 4 amazing games, to be honest. Slovakia, Canada, Finland, and the USA are all going to be moving on to the semifinals. Let's get right into it. What were your thoughts on all of the games today?
I didn't catch a whole lot of the first game. I don't think I woke up till like 8 o'clock, so I just caught the third period. But the games I did watch, like 3 straight overtime games, especially when we had none of that all tournament long, right, was pretty hectic for the most part. A couple games were tied up late, right? Well, I mean, every game actually was tied up, I think, within the last couple minutes of the game. So really eventful for the most part. Obviously, the Slovakia-Germany game. Honestly, I feel like at that game, I was a little bit more surprised on how much Slovakia dominated. I thought it would be a lot closer of a game. It was like even halfway through the second, the shots were like 21-7. I'm like, what? Like, this just does not seem right. But yeah, dude, I mean, all 4 favorites are moving on. I don't know if you knew this, but this was actually the final 4 from the 2010 Vancouver Olympics as well. I don't think it's the same matchups exactly. It might be, but same 4 teams as the 2010 Olympics. So pretty cool story for Slovakia. I mean, we kind of covered them as a little bit of an underdog earlier on, but I didn't really anticipate them going this far.
Yeah, for me, dude, watching these games today, it was absolutely insane. Similar to you, really, that first game this morning, it was way too early. I didn't catch any of it, but all really close and entertaining games. And what I kind of found pretty interesting about this is, like, going into the tournament, there was a lot of discussion, like, oh man, the 3-on-3 overtime might really suck and wreck the tournament. And we had 3 games go to overtime, as you mentioned, right? And like, I don't really think there was any issues with the 3-on-3 overtime. Look, in a gold medal game and medal games, that might change, but at least for now, like, there hasn't really been many issues with that 3-on-3 overtime. Mark, I know you kind of touched on Germany, Slovakia a little bit there. We'll get into that game. What did you really think about that? I think Slovakia, to be honest, looks really good, man.
Yeah, I mean, like they're kind of the typical country that they have some NHL players, but I mean, most of their rosters filled up through playing throughout Europe. I mean, there was a couple guys we touched on before the tournament, kind of heading into the tournament from this team. I mean, I was talking about Slavkovsky a lot. He's been a beast this Olympics. I mean, he was a beast in 2022 when the NHLers weren't there, but he was in his draft year, and it was a huge reason why we ended up taking him first overall, right? Like, he's performing in the biggest moments, and I mean, he only had 1 assist today, but I mean, he's been playing really well throughout the tournament. I felt like he's just been the driving force in that guy on that Slovakia team. Like, I never would have anticipated that he'd be sitting 5th in the tournament in scoring heading into the semifinals with 7 in 4 games. But I mean, for Slovakia, for the most part, though, one thing I will say is, like, that first game when they beat Finland, their goalie played very well. That Hlavai, he's been playing really well all tournament.
Yeah, dude.
Like, it wasn't just kind of like a one-hit wonder where he's just has a solid game, and that can happen sometimes. Like, he's been showing some pretty good consistency throughout this tournament. And I mean, to go far in a tournament, especially if you are an underdog, like, you do have to have great goaltending. But I mean, the one other guy that I wanted to point out was, I mean, you were kind of talking about Dalibor Dvorsky before, and I think he's actively on a 4-game point streak in the Olympics right now.
Yeah,
and I think that he's looked really good, dude. I think he's showing that he can be a top 6 forward in the NHL one day. And it's almost making me think that, I know we won't get into it too much, but it's like, now I just wouldn't trade Robert Thomas, because it's like, now I see, like, you keep Robert Thomas in St. Louis, Dvorsky's looking like a guy that could legitimately be a second-line center. Like maybe even better.
Too. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's something with Dvorsky, man. Like, when I see him, there's something about him is that when he puts on that Slovakia jersey, the guy just performs. Like, he just performs. We've seen in the World Juniors time and time out with him where he puts on that Slovakia jersey and he performs really well. Yeah, he hasn't had the greatest start to his NHL career so far, but here we are at Olympic break, and like, he's performing amazing for Slovakia. And like, let's be honest, he's a massive reason on why these guys are going to the semifinals. Like, right now, if I had to pick my 3 stars of the tournament for the Slovakian team, it would probably be Slavkovsky, Dvorsky, and then their goaltender, right? Like all three of those guys have performed really well, along with the rest of the team, to be honest. Like guys like Thomas Tatar, they're kind of stepping up and having their moments, right? So look, I wasn't too surprised to see Slovakia move past Germany today. Um, and I'm going to be honest here. I think going to the semifinals against the USA, like, yeah, they are a bit of the underdog, but I don't think it's going to be the USA walking all over them. Like, I think Slovakia is going to put up a pretty strong fight. We'll get into that a bit more later. Um, Mark, moving on to the second game of the day, we had Czechia versus Canada. Of course, us being Canadians, it was a real nail biter. I think I was sweating it out. At one point, when Canada was down 3-2, I was actually sitting on my couch thinking to myself, oh my fucking God, Canada's going to lose this game, and I'm going to have to hop on the podcast in 4 hours and just be in a bad fucking mood recording this podcast. But thankfully, Canada pulled it out. Mark, what did you think about that game, though?
Yeah, I can't lie. I was kind of thinking similarly. I was almost like pulling out my phone, being like, dude, can we just like do this another day? Because I'm like, I'm not really going to have the energy to do
I'm
this.
not
And
gonna.
my next thought was even like, am I even going to want to watch the next two games after
Yeah,
this? After that, man, what a roller coaster of emotions. Now, I was texting some people yesterday saying I was nervous. Some people were like, I'm not really nervous. And I'm like, I don't think you guys are giving Czechia enough credit. Just because we dummied
yep,
them once doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to happen again. And now, I didn't think that Lucas Dostal made a bunch of stellar saves. He had some, but I felt like he made some still big saves to keep them in it at times, right? Like even 20 seconds into the game, McDavid's got a point blank chance. That goes in. Dude, it could be a completely different game, right? Now, the one thing I will say is Czechia was good. I did feel like, and I don't know if you agree, I felt like they really kind of sat back a lot in the second half of the game.
they
Like
did.
even that third goal, the go-ahead goal, like they just took advantage of a block shot in a odd man rush going the other way.
Yeah,
Now, the one thing I will say, and I'm a little bit concerned about for Canada moving forward, is I did feel like we got a little bit lost in our own zone sometimes, and I've been very indifferent about the offense that's coming from the back end besides Makar. Now, I think
yep,
Harley's actually had a pretty good tournament for the most part. I will say, like, I think we really need Josh Morrissey back. I think he would help stabilize a lot. And even like Sanheim, like, I mean, I've been very critical of him, but I actually think that he's been playing quite well in this tournament. I think he's been kind of just doing his job, being that number 5-6 guy they've relied upon. I just have been more concerned with Doughty and Parayko, to be honest. I don't think they're looking very good, in my opinion. And until later in that game, it was kind of almost like, I don't know if you agree, I was almost like, every offensive zone draw, let's get McKinnon, Celebrini, McDavid out there. And it was like, it almost came to a point where I was like, why am I treating this like we have a one-line team, right? And I mean, for
yeah,
some of the tournament, I feel like the scoring in the bottom half of the lineup has been a little bit non-existent at times. And it's not that they haven't been, or they've been bad. It's just that they haven't really been producing much, right? And fuck, like people have been ripping Suzuki. I honestly think he's been fine all tournament. The one thing too, dude, is it's like this guy's played how many years at fucking center? You put him on the wing with McKinnon. To be honest with you, I love Nick Suzuki. I never really thought that was a good line combination. I just don't think Suzuki complements McKinnon very well. It's not that he won't go into the corners and fight, but he's not very fast. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And I felt that once Crosby was done, like Suzuki just stepped up. Like people are saying you don't notice him out there. And I'm like, yeah, because that's what Nick Suzuki does. You don't notice him at times because he shuts guys down and then he comes up in big moments and he's clutch. That's what Nick Suzuki is. And I just think that a lot of Canadian fans aren't really used to that. But man, I don't know if you actually watched that full sequence of that tying goal. So Suzuki had the puck, I think, at the defensive zone blue line, and he skated in, he chipped it in. And everybody else on Canada changed. And I thought he was going to change. And I was like, when he was going in, I was like, oh my God, like this is kind of a smart play. And then he went in hard. He got the puck out and went to the net. And it was a great tip, dude. So,
yeah,
and then even later on, like Mitch Marner, obviously, I think there's been a lot of hate on him this tournament. Meanwhile, I think at times he's actually been pretty reliable defensively. Like that Crosby Stone Marner line has been pretty good. I felt like for the most part, but what a play, dude. It was so funny because it it was such a nice goal, but at the same time, I felt like he didn't even really do much. Like he kind of was like gliding and he was like waiting for the D to like make a move, right? And I think the D got confused of who was actually going to go for him. And Marner just kind of sat there and he was like sliding and he made like one move, went to the backhand and he scored. So in the sense, it was like, it wasn't like a highlight reel goal, but it was like a very smart play, right?
Yeah. And like, I think part of the reason too why the Czechia defensemen were kind of slower on there too is I think everybody thought he was going to be trying to pass that back door to Celebrini, right? Who was coming in. Like even me watching that on TV, I'm like, okay, he's going to attack and he's going to try to slide that back door. And then I'm like, holy shit, they're giving you some space. Like, take it, take it. To be honest, I didn't think he was going to take it, man. I thought he was still going to try to pass that back door. But, like, as you said, it wasn't the nicest goal I've ever seen. But, like, it was a hell of a smart play. Like, even watching it, I think he was looking for the pass. And then he kind of realized, like, no, they're giving it to me. I'm going to take it from you. And he kind of did exactly that and got the goal there. Um, for me, the big takeaways from this game is the Crosby. It's like, what is his timeline going to be? To be honest, like that can be a massive loss for Team Canada. And then, to be honest, like the depth did scare me a bit offensively at points. Like you mentioned the whole Celebrini, McKinnon, McDavid thing. Like get him out there every offensive face off, and like to be honest, I think part of the reason why like you were thinking that, and even myself was thinking that was like up until the Nick Suzuki goal, I wouldn't say any of those other lines were really like rolling offensively or really had a lot of great chances. For me, it felt like they were they were getting some stuff done on the offensive end, but like it wasn't a whole lot of high danger stuff or really grade A opportunities outside of that McDavid, Celebrini, McKinnon line. And then, of course, when Suzuki got that goal, it kind of really changed things up there for Canada, and they looked a whole lot better after that. Mark, I want to move on to the Czechia side here. I don't know if you've seen the full comments from their coach after the game, but he basically completely was ripping the refereeing, saying that there's a ton of missed penalties and that he doesn't understand how stuff is getting called in the NHL and not getting called over here. For example, that Martin Nishas kind of half breakaway that he had, their coach thought there should have been a penalty on that play. The Drew Doughty hit on David Pastrnak, he thought there should have been a penalty on that as well. What did you think about the comments there from their coach?
I think he should go back to the go ahead goal and count how many Czech players were on the ice for that before he kind of opens his mouth. I think I don't know, dude. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say that like there wasn't stuff that I thought they missed on Canada. Like to be honest with you, no one really talked about it. I honestly felt like when we tied the game on that second goal, like that penalty was pretty soft. Like the guy who hit McKinnon on that board battle, I didn't really think it was much of a cross check, to be honest. And but then before that, I also looked at it and I'm in the first period, like I also didn't think that Celebrini thing was a penalty either, dude. Yeah. Like the puck was already past the goal line before Celebrini stood in front of him and they called an interference penalty. And I'm like, what are they calling this for? Like this happened. The thing with that is it's like, do I think it's kind of interference? Yeah. But how many times a game do they let that go? Right? That's where I'm just like, what's the standard here? And then it's like they score on that power play, and then before Sid got out, Palat just nails him mid ice. I don't know if you saw that. Like he was nowhere near the puck. And I don't know, man. The craziest part about that tying goal was like they didn't just have 6 guys on in the defensive zone. Like I don't know if you saw the 2 defensemen change, and then, well, that's because the 2 defensemen were changing, and then the 2 guys were coming on. So it's not really like, yes, there's 8 guys on, but there wasn't 8 guys affecting the play, is what I'm saying.
See,
right?
I would even argue against that though, because Mark Stone on that back check was slow as like he looked slow as fuck on that back check. Like the shooter there, that was his guy, and he was slow getting there on the back check, right? And I wonder if part of the reason was he's looking around going, who the fuck am I taking here? See, like, I'm not saying you know what I mean? I'm not saying they scored because they had 8 guys on the ice, but I do wonder if Mark Stone was maybe a little bit slower than normal on that back check, partially because it was like, who's my guy here? There's Czechia guys on the ice right
And
now.
not that I'm agreeing with the decision, but I also look at it like, is that shot even being blocked if they have five guys on the ice? Like, you know what I mean? The shot block that went
Yeah,
the other way, and that was totally like, as much as they had an extra guy on, like that goal was kind of on Stone. I felt like he made the bad play, and the funniest thing was Nick Suzuki was like all the way behind the goal line, and he made it all the way back, and I'm kind of just
yeah.
like, I know Mark Stone is slow, but I'm just like, Nick
He's not
Suzuki's
that
not much
slow.
faster. Nick Suzuki's not much faster, and he made it all the way back to cover another guy. So I'm just like, I don't know. It's just kind of a huge miscommunication in my opinion. And
Yeah.
man, luck was on our side a little bit, 100%, dude. Like I'm not gonna like neglect that, you know what I mean? And some people thought that we were just going to like breeze our way through this tournament, and I just feel like it's a different story once the playoffs come. Like, you got to remember that Czechia's played us once, right? Like
Yep.
they will probably figure out some things about us that are some of our weak spots, right? And the one thing I will say too, dude, is especially after getting two on him early, I felt like Bennington was solid, dude. I thought he had a solid game because I will say, as a goalie,
Yeah, he
like
did.
Dostal was obviously the better goalie, and I'm not saying that's not true, but as a goalie, sometimes when you don't face shots for periods of time, like it's not easy, right, to come up big. And I would say that I wouldn't really blame any of those goals on him, right? Like especially that last one, it's like, could he have saved it? Probably, but like Palat's sitting there in the high slot, right? Like there's not much you can do. He makes a couple big saves in the third period and even the one in overtime there to come up big. So I just wanted to give Bennington his flowers after I thought it was a little bit of a rough game versus France, but I mean, that's we can kind of afford to have one in one of those games, right? When you're scoring 10 goals. So I really liked what I saw from Bennington today. I know like the save percentage is probably like 870 or whatever, but I think you just got to kind of look past that in a tournament like this, especially when you have a team like Canada who doesn't necessarily give up high volumes of shots. You kind of need a goalie to come up big when the time's big, and Bennington did that today, I thought.
Yeah, I think he looked pretty well. Like I didn't have any questions really about his performance. It was more about the players that were playing in front of him, to be honest. Mark, the third game of the day was Switzerland versus Finland. It was a bit weird this game because there was a decent amount of overlap with the Canada Czechia game, right? So I think at one point I checked and I was like, "Oh damn, Switzerland's up 2-0 right now. Like I'm gonna have to turn this game on immediately after the Canada Czechia game ends." I turned it on and man, what a comeback by Finland there! Absolutely unbelievable. What did you think about this game though?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit surprising that Switzerland was leading for so much of the game, but now I will say that I feel like Switzerland's also another team that's like not really getting a ton of respect as well, right? Like a lot of people, I feel like they don't realize the quality of NHL
Yeah,
players that they have on their team. Like, dude, they got a guy who's Roman Yossi. He's a number one defenseman on a lot of teams in the NHL. Like everyone's talking about the rise of JJ Moser. Like, you know what I mean? And then you go up front, they got like Nico Hischier, like Timo Meyer, like Kurashev's look pretty good in this tournament. I felt like
yeah,
too for the most part. But honestly, dude, I was like, I mean, the one thing I will say, and I think Switzerland definitely regrets this. I thought they sat back way too hard when they got the lead. They were
yeah,
relying on their goalie to make so many saves, and I just want to give him some credit. Leonardo Giannoni, like this is a guy like we're talking about Hlavy with Slovakia. He's not an active NHL goaltender. He's currently playing in Europe. Like I thought he made a name for himself in this tournament, dude. Like Switzerland, they are one of these teams that has minimal NHL players, but they don't have like an NHL caliber goaltender on their team. And it's like sometimes you might think back and say, oh my God, like we were a good team, but if we just had good goaltending, like we would have made it far. Like I don't think we can talk about that for Slovakia or I mean even Italy or even these guys in Swiss, right? Like they're getting some pretty solid goaltending. I felt like for the most part. Um, at the same time, I just think that Finland does have a little bit more star power, and they kind of pushed hard near the end. Like as much as I don't love their team as much as other people, Finland, they do have some guys that can make a difference, right?
yeah,
I just more think that Finland's constructed. If I dissect their roster, I think they're more like a really good NHL team instead of being like a high quality like country. And I know they're in the top four, but it's like I was having this talk with some people. It's like I kind of think it's like Canada, US, Sweden, and then like Finland's like they're sort of like out of that tier, but they might not be necessarily in the mid tier. You know what I mean? Because like if you really go down their lineup, it's like without Barkov, it's like their centers are solid, but it's like they're nothing. Like it's like Aho, Lundell. It's like just kind of like a normal NHL team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's also like we'll probably get into the matchup tomorrow. It's like, to be honest with you, I was more scared and nervous to play Czech today than I am to play Finland tomorrow.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Mark, I want to move on and talk about the final game of the day. It was Sweden USA. This one literally just wrapped up, what, maybe 45 minutes ago now. This one, I honestly thought at one point, like after that first period, I'm like, man, we could potentially see an upset here. Like, great quarterfinals matchup there. You're getting two big dogs in the fight. USA squeaks it out in overtime. What did you think about that game?
Yeah, I mean, out of all four, I felt like it was definitely the most low event and more defensive, boring games of the
Yep.
day. Um, the one thing I was really curious about is now a couple of things with the States. I think that they played very well defensively today, and they've shown consistently throughout the tournament that they are a good defensive team. And I would say maybe collectively as a unit on paper, they probably have the best decor in the tournament.
Yeah.
I felt they sat back a little bit too. Like it was more in the third period. I felt like when they scored, they were still kind of pushing, and then the last 7 or 8 minutes or so, they were sitting back a little bit too much. Now, with Sweden, dude, I really wanted to talk about Sweden because
Yeah, this has been an interesting tournament for them.
so is it crazy to say that based on expectations, I think they may have the worst tournament out of like anybody? Like, because
No, I don't
I
think that's
understand they won a
crazy.
couple of games. They won a couple of games, but like, was there really any game that Sweden played and you were like, wow, okay, like if this is the team that we're gonna see, like they could give Canada or US a run for their money in this tournament.
Like, I think today, to be honest, was their best game by far. Like, not even close. And it does suck for them that since they had such a shitty start to the tournament, they kind of got stuck with the draw that they did, where they had to play the USA in the quarterfinals. Right? It's like, I think if they had the performance they had today against a Finland or a Czechia or maybe even a Slovakia, like they probably win that game, right? But I think it's like Sweden got off to such a bad start that they got to the point where they're at now, and it's like you're going up against USA, and it's going to be a hell of a matchup, right? Like that's no easy game in the quarterfinals, and now we're here, and they're leaving, and they're not even going to play in a medal game, right? Like going into the tournament, this was what most people were saying. We're either going to be playing in the finals or playing in the semifinals, and probably finishing with a bronze medal if they weren't playing in that finals game, right? And all of a sudden, here they are, and you're going home, and you're not playing in the semifinals. You're not going to be playing in a medal game, right? So I'm with you, man. Like I think Sweden, out of like given their expectations going into the tournament, I think Sweden probably had the most disappointing tournament. And like, look, they did have some things going on with their team, right? Like Victor Hedman, he he wasn't 100% healthy. That's a massive loss. Their goaltending didn't look great at points.
I thought
But
he
on
was
the other,
really good today, though. Like I thought he played very well today.
I think Markstrom, there was no issues from today. It was more earlier on in the tournament, right? Like Gustafson, he had a couple shaky moments and stuff, right? But it's like, look, their goaltending wasn't great at points, but the other thing is like their goaltending decisions were fucking weird at points, man.
Yeah,
Like
that's okay.
you got
I want to talk about the coaching, dude. So like this kind of ties
go
into
into
that.
it, go into it, man.
So is it more like because they went with Gus and then he kind of struggled that they just completely went off of him and didn't go back? Because the one thing that is strange to me is I don't necessarily have a problem with that because I do disagree a bit. I actually thought that Markstrom overall had a pretty good tournament. Like
Yeah.
I thought for his standards and considering like how bad he's been this year and how much we questioned him even being on this team, I thought he's been pretty good in this tournament, dude. My thing is more so Gus was your guy and he didn't play very well. So now you're not even dressing him.
Yeah, you're not like
That's my thing. And even
and
like, I mean, it's not as big of a deal with the States, but like, so does Swayman letting in a goal from center mean that he's not the backup goalie anymore? Like, he didn't even dress today. It's Ottinger.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, that's whatever. That's a whole different thing, because USA, I mean, they've had some questionable coaching decisions too at times, but I mean, it's way different with Sweden, because like, I don't even think we've scratched the surface on some of these decisions that they've made yet. Like, what do you think about the goaltending overall? Is it that they haven't gone back to Gus at all? Is it that what I'm saying and he's not even dressed anymore? Like, what is it?
See, dude, I think it's like you got Wallstead there. I don't get how that guy didn't get a game. I don't get how he didn't like this guy
So
in the NHL has been
what I
phenomenal. How are
heard,
you not playing him?
so what I heard was apparently, and I don't, if this is true, it makes even less sense on the way the coach is managing the team. Apparently, a lot of veteran guys just felt like, or showed to the coach that if they were not going to go with Gustafsson at any point, they really would prefer Markstrom, because they've had experience playing behind him before. But my mentality is, okay, so if that's what the decision you'd made because of input from your team, why the fuck doesn't someone going to you about Philip Forsberg playing 1 minute and 9 seconds against Italy
Yeah,
influence you more to play a guy like Philip Forsberg more? And listen, he got into this tournament more as it went along, but then it sacrificed Jesper Bratt. And I'm like, what is fucking happening, dude? And look, I'll be honest with you, dude. I watched Pontus Holmberg play this tournament. He did his fucking job. He did his
yeah,
job. He was hard on the forecheck. He was very good defensively. But and my mentality was more, because I don't know if you know this. So this coach coached, I think it's
yeah,
Vacchio in
yeah.
Sweden.
When Holmberg was
Pontus
MVP.
Holmberg won MVP of the
Yeah,
playoffs while this guy was coaching. So, okay, here's my thing. All right, you got some familiarity with Pontus Holmberg. You want in the lineup? Fine. You know what? Take out Elias Lindholm. I like Alex Wenberg as a 4C. If you're not going to use Michael Backlund and bring Michael Backlund, I'm totally fine with you putting Alex Wenberg there. But I'm like, what has Elias Lindholm done for you in this tournament that's anything special? And then I'm looking at it, dude, and it's like Jesper Bratt, I don't think he played a second in the first period. You know who was on an OT? Jesper Bratt.
yeah.
What are we fucking doing, dude?
And it's not even Lindholm either. It's like nothing against Gabe Landeskog. Great player, but it's like Gabe Landeskog is not the same Gabe Landeskog he was before the injury, right? Why the fuck is Gabe Landeskog on the first line over Bratton and Forsberg, dude? That makes zero
And
fucking sense to me. Like, maybe I can understand you're trying to spread out your talent a little bit, but you'd think if you're spreading out your talent a little bit, you'd really be running three lines and pretty equally, right? That wasn't the case though. Like these coaching decisions made absolutely zero sense, dude. I would not be surprised if Sweden gets on their flight going wherever they're going and their coach like they just don't allow them on the flight. Nope, find your own way home, buddy. Thank you very much, but no.
crazy to me though, too, dude. The one thing about Landeskog, I totally agree. I love Gabe Landeskog, but the one thing I was thinking too is who is guarding Quinn Hughes in that OT winner? Gabe Landeskog.
Yep.
I'll be honest with you. Why is that guy playing an OT? I don't get it. He should. I go through their lineup and it's like I can see 6 other forwards that I would prefer to have on the ice in a 3-on-3 situation, right? Like Gabe Landeskog, dude, the guy's a fucking dog. Like the fact that he came back from this injury itself is just impressive on its own. You're right. He's not the same player. He's still a very solid player, but it's like, how much why do you need this guy on 3-on-3?
He's
Like,
never
it's
been a
like
fast guy. Like
first guys, like we're talking about best on best competition, dude. Like USA, like Quinn, you have him guarding Quinn Hughes, dude. It's like it's almost unfair to the guy, right? Like, and the one thing that is even more questioning to me, I agree. I don't think this coach is going to coach another game for Sweden's national team, regardless if it's the World Cup of Hockey next or whatever, dude. They have an NHL coach on their bench, Anders Sorensen. He was the interim coach for the Blackhawks last year. Like some guys like this guy, and apparently he's been a very good coach in the AHL. It's like, why don't you give this guy a shot? Like he's had experience, like, and you can even say, all right, well, he's been dealing with Connor. He dealt with Connor Bedard. Like it's not like he hasn't dealt with like high quality players before. And I know it's limited sample size, but it's like, man, like, what are we doing here, dude? Like, I felt like I'm almost surprised that USA didn't kill them today, dude. Like
Same.
I'm almost more surprised that it was a closer game because I had no optimism going into this game for Sweden, and I was sitting there talking to my parents watching the end of the game, and like it was 1-1 when they tied it, and I said to them, I'm like, I'm gonna be honest, as much as I wanted USA to lose just so they were out, I was literally like, I honestly think I prefer to play Sweden tomorrow than Finland. Because I think Sweden is so disjointed right now. And if they somehow get a lucky overtime winner, like it doesn't even really mean anything. And I do agree that they played better today. But at the same time, it was like, I felt like they were just solid defensively. But like, did Hellebuck really even have to did he make a single 10 bell save today? And it's nothing against his game. He played really good. You got to make the easy saves, right? And there were a couple big saves at times, but it was like, are any of those saves on the highlight reel? It's like, no, dude. Like
Yeah.
it would have been if he stopped that goal that they scored with a minute left. But I was just like, they're not really impressing me that much, and I felt like their tactics in overtime weren't smart. Like they didn't do the whole sit back and get a play going and like kind of go in three guys. It was like, all right, I got the puck. I'm gonna like cut to the net and like try to create a chance. And I'm like, especially that last play, I think it was Forsberg. It was like, dude, you're trying to cut to the net and get a chance. Like the other guy's changing. There's another guy on US that's just standing in front of the net. It's like, even if you get a
What are you doing
shot
there?
off, it's like nobody's there. Like,
Uh,
why don't you just reload and go back to the neutral zone? I know people hate when that happens, but it's not illegal and it's a way that there's been success from it, right? So I just felt like I don't know if that's a coaching thing or what exactly it was, but I just felt like there was no point in that overtime where I was like, oh, God, yeah, Sweden's going to win this game.
yeah, it was a horrible tournament from Sweden, to be honest. And like when it comes to the coaching thing too, like I know you mentioned that they have some other coaching options already on that bench, but even it's like there's nothing stopping them from going out and hiring an NHL coach to coach the team, or like even a coach from Finland or Norway, like Denmark. Like I don't care, but it's like they have so many better options, I think, to coach that team, and it's like for some reason they still went with the guy even after Four Nations face off last year. So it was a weird decision for sure. Mark, I want to move on and talk about the semifinals and the finals that are going to happen. Friday, the semifinals are going to take place. Canada is going to play Finland, and the USA will play Slovakia. Starting off with Canada versus Finland, how do you think that game's going to go?
Yeah, I think that we still got some work to do, dude. I think
Yeah.
that I want to see a lot more tight knit defensive game tomorrow instead of like I felt like there were times in this game today where Jordan Binnington like he had to make a pretty big save, dude. Like and like they even
There
hit a couple
was.
posts. Like I thought we were super vulnerable defensively. So I want to see us like it's not like I want to go out there and be like I want that to kill them because realistically all we got to do is win the game and that's all that really matters. But I just want to see a game where we're really tight knit defensively, not really giving up many chances, and obviously take home the W. I think for Finland, it's like you kind of gotta be physical because I felt like Czechia, especially to open that game, was pretty physical, and it kind of got us. I don't want to say shaking a little bit because I don't think we were like really off of our game early on, but it definitely made it more of an even game. So I think with Finland, they got to be super physical. They got to sit back a little bit, but they also just got to be really opportunistic, dude. Like think about Czechia's goals today. Like there was two off the rush basically, and then you got that power play goal. Like you're not going to beat a team like Canada when you're less skilled than them by trying to outskill them, right? Like you gotta work harder for them. You got to get really good goaltending, and you just got to be opportunistic.
Yeah, for me, the two things I want to see for Team Canada, similar to what you said, I want to see them be a bit better defensively in their own zone and just have a bit better smooth breakouts. And then the second big thing I want to see from Team Canada is I really want to see a full 60 minutes where the bottom half of the lineup is a bit better offensively and producing some more opportunities. Like I don't think they've been like I don't think they've been terrible throughout this tournament, but I wouldn't like there have been points where I feel like we're relying on like McDavid or Marner or even Celebrini, or sorry, not Marner, McDavid, McKinnon, and Celebrini a bit too much at points, right? And I do want to see maybe a bit more finish and a bit more fight from them in the offensive zone. And then for Team Finland, man, like for me, the thing I'm really looking at going into this game is UC Saros. Like if Finland has any chance of pulling off this big upset here, I think UC Saros needs to be absolutely phenomenal for Team Finland. And like we've seen it before in UC Saros's career, like he's a goalie that can go out there and steal a game, right? Like he's definitely capable of that. Is he capable of doing that against Team Canada and some of the dogs that they have on this team? Not 100% sure. To be honest, look, I think Team Canada at the end of the day is going to win this game. I think this game against Czechia, to be honest, like has really woken them up and they'll come out against Finland flying and absolutely ready for that game. So I'm going with Team Canada moving on to the gold medal game. Mark, game two, USA, Slovakia. Who you got in that one?
Yeah, I think that I mean this is probably a matchup that USA was more wanting, right? Than to get Germany again. That I don't know if you necessarily agree with that, but I think that like it's not going to be an easy game, dude. At the end of the day, I think US is going to end up winning, but I don't necessarily anticipate a blowout at all. I think Slovakia is going to come out hard. I think that they're pretty solid defensively for the most part, and they've shown that. And if Hlavai keeps playing the way that he's playing, I think they got a chance, man. Like he hasn't really been that vulnerable in this tournament. Like he hasn't really let up many, if any, stinkers at all. And I think that even with the US today, it was like I thought they played really well defensively, and it's like that's a good sign, right? But I mean, I don't think that they had like a lot of like great scoring opportunities either. Like as much as I thought Markstrom was really good, it wasn't like they didn't really have like a ton of chances like from the inner slot at times, right? So I think that Slovakia, like they definitely do have a fighting chance. And if they've been playing that the way that they have been playing, I think that it's honestly going to be a pretty close game. If I had to guess at the end of the day, dude, I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go probably go like 4-1 empty netter for the U.S. Or maybe 3-1, but I think it's going to be pretty close for the most part. I think like Hellebuck's been pretty solid
Yeah.
too, and I mean he was pretty solid today. So, but I don't think you can count out Slovakia, man. I feel like I've just been kind of waiting and waiting for them to like have a stinker and like really show like okay, this is where the inexperience is. But I haven't really seen that yet, man, from them. So maybe they're just riding a high right now, and you never know what can happen.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going with USA in this game. I think it will be a close game. I do like Slovakia and how they've played so far at this tournament, but I just think at the end of the day, like USA is going to be a bit too much for Slovakia to handle, and I don't know if you can rely enough on Slovakia's goalie to put up a performance that he'd have to put up to beat a team like the USA, right? Like I think he's looked phenomenal at the tournament so far, but realistically, like can we expect him to go in there and put up a performance where he can really give Slovakia a shot to beat the USA? I'm not convinced he'll be able to do that.
Now,
Mark,
one thing I wanted to say
yeah,
about even before and earlier about the Sweden game, I felt like if Sweden could get the first goal and if it was in the first period, it probably would have been a different game. Because the one thing I will say about the States, they haven't really had the greatest starts. Besides that, I think
yeah,
that Latvia game where they had a couple disallowed goals and they scored a couple early in the first period, like they haven't really, it's almost like it takes them a little bit to wake up. And I think that if Slovakia can get a goal or two early, which they actually have shown that they can do, like I think it could make it a lot different of a game if they can get one early and kind of have the States back on their heels, right? Because even today, like with Canada, it was like, oh God, like we're on our heels now, right? Like we haven't been losing a game since 2010. So like it was kind of like what are you really when you're down, right?
yeah, I'm with you on that. I think if Slovakia scores first and they score early on against the USA, like that is going to make out to be an absolutely phenomenal game. Mark, so both of us, we got USA Canada moving on to the finals. What are your predictions, final score for the gold medal game?
Oh man. Now, if this matchup happens, which it seems like there's a good possibility it could, I am a little bit nervous. Like, I mean, I feel like most people would be in accordance to the USA's got a great roster. They've been playing some great defense. In hopes that like we do have a solid game tomorrow or on Friday, whenever the heck this pod drops on Friday,
Yeah.
and we do tighten it up defensively a bit, I definitely will feel a little bit more optimistic heading into that game. Hopefully, another solid game from Binnington. Maybe we get a couple goals from the depth, almost like game one. You know what I mean? I think we got a good chance, dude, because it's like you never know with Sid. I don't know if he's going to be back. It's almost like even if he's okay to go, it's like I wouldn't even mind him
Put
just
him in the
being the
lineup.
13th
Put him
forward.
in.
Put him in as a 13th forward and just make him not take every shift. Put him on the second power play, even. I don't really care. You could put Celebrini on the first power play, honestly, right now, and I think it'd be fine. I think we got a good chance, but I will say, like, I kind of anticipate like a 3-2 game, almost like that Four Nations final last year. I think that with Hellebuck having good D in front of him, I think it's going to be really hard to beat him like 4 to 5 times. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Meanwhile, Binnington's probably a lot more prone to having that happen to him, but he's shown up in big moments, and I think it's his net moving forward. So I'm going to go 3-2 Canada again in the finals, but I'm going to go no overtime this time.
3-2, no overtime. Okay. See, for me, I'm going 3-2, and I'm going including like with overtime, and that is for Team Canada. Like I think the Crosby status and the Josh Morrissey status, it does worry me a bit for Canada, but look, I think this game against Czechia it really woke them up. I think against Finland they're going to come out strong, have a good game, and then they're going to go into the finals really feeling well about themselves. I think the key though for Canada is look, they're going to have to beat Hellebuck early and really try not to play from behind. Like I think if Canada scores first against the USA in the finals, they're gonna have a great chance of winning that game. Where it's like if you're kind of fighting from behind, similar to how they were today or in the Four Nations face-off finals, like I think Canada's gonna have a tough time, and that will probably lead to them losing the game. But I'm going 3-2 Canada in overtime. Mark, I want to talk about the women's ice hockey at the Olympics before we wrap up the podcast. Thursday, USA and Canada, they're going to play in the gold medal game for the women's ice hockey. How do you think this game's going to go?
Yeah, bro, I can't lie. Like I am a hell of a lot more nervous for the women's game than I am for the men's game. Like US has won, I believe, 7 straight now. They had a pretty convincing win in the round robin. Obviously, we didn't have Poulin, but I mean, can't really just say having one player back would have changed the complete outcome of that game, right? USA was pretty dominant. We kind of more of a veteran team. They're more younger, faster. They've got some more skill on their team. I guess the good part about this is it's a one game, right? Like you
Yeah.
have Anne Renee Debian potentially just stand on her head, which I mean she's prone to do at times. So I will say though, if I'm being realistic, I think that the States are going to win.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. I'll go 4-1. I
4-1, really, yeah.
I don't know, man. Like it's just like you got to be. As much as I wish it was the other way around, I just think you got to be realistic with it. And it's not like I don't think that they have a fighting chance at all. It's just based on what's happened recently and how
Yeah.
I just think how sound defensively and great goaltending they get is just going to be really difficult, right?
No, I'm with you, dude. I think like I don't necessarily if it is 4-1, like I could see where it is 4-1, but if it is 4-1, like I do see it being that, but it's like an empty net goal or two, right? Like I do think it is going to be a closer game than the round robin game these two teams played, but I also still think the USA is going to win. Like man, like the way this USA team's built, where you still have like the Hillary Knights and those older veteran players, but then you also have this wave of kind of younger players, especially the players playing in the NCAA right now. Like I think this team for USA on the women's side looks absolutely phenomenal, right? Like going into the tournament, dude, I really didn't know a whole lot about these younger players. For me, it was more like what's Taylor Heisey gonna kind of do here at this tournament? And like, man, I'd say Taylor Heisey hasn't even been in the top five of players to watch on this USA team, right? Like this Caroline Harvey girl and then her defensive partner Edwards, like they both play together at Wisconsin. Holy fuck, dude, they've looked amazing at this tournament, man. They're not even in the PWHL yet, right? Like they're still in the NCAA, and you can make an argument that they're probably the have looked like the two best defensemen in the entire tournament for them, right? Like Abby Murphy, Megan Keller, like a lot of these players on USA have really performed really well. I think they're gonna win gold medal, but I think it's gonna be a closer game. I'm gonna go 5-2, Mark, and that's including two empty net goals.
Wow. Okay.
So
So you think
three
it's a
two,
nail
then
biter? Like they have a chance to win maybe in the last couple of minutes and they just kind of fall short. Okay. The one thing I will say too that we cannot discredit, like Poulin, dude. Like you never
yeah,
know
yeah,
when you got an X factor like that, it can change everything.
yeah. And as you mentioned, like it's one game. Like if Canada's goalie comes out here, stands on her head for the game, it's like, and then Poulin has a clutch moment or two. It's like that could be the game right there, right? So I'm not counting Canada out, but just based off what I've seen in this tournament, like USA women's hockey right now looks like an absolute wagon. And to be honest, they've kind of owned Canada at the international level on the women's side, at least for what the past, I think it's the past 8 games or so, 7 games maybe. I think they're like 7-0 or something like that. Like it's not looking too great, but hopefully Canada can pull it out. Mark, I want to wrap up the show. I know we usually do games to wrap up the show, but just given how amazing all the quarterfinals games were today on the men's side, how many big plays there were and big moments there were, I want to change it up. Instead of doing a game, we're each going to pick a player of the day for quarterfinals day on the men's side. Mark, I'll get things started. My player of the day, you talked about him earlier. It's Jordan Bennington. Look, I don't think Jordan Bennington like stole the game or anything for Canada, but I think there were a couple moments, especially when Canada was already down a goal in that game, where it was like, ooh, Czechia could score here, and it really like puts Canada back. And I think Jordan Bennington made the saves he made, and I think the most important thing he did today was the big saves that he needed to make, he made. Like it easily could have been a different game, I think, maybe if Jordan Bennington doesn't make those saves, and Czechia probably wins that game. So I'm going with Jordan Bennington as my player of the day today. Mark, who is your player?
Interesting pick, dude. I kind of like it. I felt like he did have a little bit of an underrated game today. Like I thought that
Yeah,
there wasn't like a couple chances where it was like a wide open net and he made a save, but it was more like boom, pass to the slot, big save. You know what I mean? On a
yeah,
shot that could go in. It was just more that third one, it didn't happen, right? He didn't make that save, but it was also a pretty nicely placed shot. My player of the day, I think that you're going to find this kind of interesting that I went down this route, but we didn't really give the whole first game a lot of love, just considering that, I mean, a lot of us
yeah,
weren't up that early watching, but I went back and watched some of it. I'm going to go with Pavel Regenda. Now, I don't know if a lot of you people know about him, but he was actually signed by the Ducks a couple of years ago, and he spent some time in the AHL. He made the Ducks and Sharks made a 1-for-1 AHL swap last year. I think it was Regenda for Josh Bailey, and he started off pretty good in the AHL this year with San Jose, and he came up, and he's got 8 goals in 16 games with the Sharks. And I was kind of interested to see, like, what is this guy's role going to be at the Olympics for Slovakia? And he's been playing a top 9 role. And man, he had 2 goals and an assist today. I thought he had a really big game, and I thought he's a bigger guy, so he's pretty physical at times. But I really like Pavel Regenda. I think that he's kind of making a name for himself. Not just in the NHL, but sort of in this tournament too. And the one thing I found sort of interesting, dude, is that I think that the whole Jeff Skinner thing was like that they didn't really have a
yeah,
spot for him anymore. Like they have Chernyshov coming up and playing well, and then they've got Regenda coming up and playing well, and they're almost like, we got some youth here, right? So let's give them an opportunity more. So I just wanted to give a guy who a lot of people probably don't know about some flowers today, dude, because Slovakia had a pretty convincing win today, the only team not to win in overtime, and I thought he led the way offensively.
yeah. Honestly, I wasn't too familiar with his game, but just from what I saw on the stat sheet and also the couple clips I've seen from the game earlier today, like I think he did have a pretty good game today. Mark, that's going to wrap up today's episode. So we'll be back next week, I believe, a day or two after the men's gold medal game. So we'll kind of be recapping that and previewing the second half, or if you want to say the last stretch here of the NHL season. So stay tuned for that, and for everybody listening in right now, thanks for tuning in.